Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to do a trailer breakdown for the first trailer for Coming to America. Not Coming to as in T.O., Coming to as in the number 2, which is the sequel to the original Coming to America, which came out in 1988 and starred Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. Now, they got Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy, and actually a lot of the actors from the first film to come back and do this. And this is kind of, this was greenlit, after Dolomite Is My Name came out and a few other things from Eddie Murphy that kind of jump-started his career again. I think they have Beverly Hills Cop 4 going on over at Netflix right now that's currently in development. But this film is slated to release on Amazon Prime, and this is this is going to be an interesting one. This is just a teaser. Even though it's a 2-minute clip, it's really only about a minute and 45 seconds or so of actual footage. And it kind of plays out how you think it is, but there's some other things that kind of factor into this that make this kind of weird for me. I'm not a huge fan of the original film. I enjoy it. I think it's funny. I think it has really, really good moments. I think it's one of Eddie Murphy's better films, but, I'd probably take something like Trading Places or Beverly Hills Cop or something like that before I would go to Coming to America, but I still think it is a good movie. Now, we also have James Earl Jones coming back to play King Jaffe. Or Joffer, Jaffe Joffer. God, that is so weird to say. So basically, what we have here is we have Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall playing the same characters from the first movie, which, by the way, they show up basically in that opening scene. So, and then we have a narration that's done over a lot of the trailer, at least the early parts of it, by James Earl Jones, who's basically dictating to Eddie Murphy that he has a son who is in America that he needs to go find and bring back so that he can groom him for the throne, because apparently Eddie Murphy and his wife, Lisa, who is played by the same actress from the first film, Shari Headley, she apparently they only had a daughter. And again, this is 20 plus years later now. So apparently he has an illegitimate son that is in America that nobody really knew about, and this is going to be an entire thing. So here's my first problem: is this makes the plot of the original Coming to America was very, very simple. James Earl Jones and as the king has an arranged marriage set up for his son, played by Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy does not want to marry her because she only wants to marry him because he's royalty. He wants to find a woman who will love him for him. So he decides to go to America, and since they have no idea what they're doing, they wind up getting this shitty little apartment in Queens, and he winds up meeting the Lisa character, who again is played by Shari Headley. Throughout the movie, they fall in love, wind up going back. She marries him, and happily ever after, everybody rides off into the sunset. Perfect ending. Now in this, you have this extra complication of an illegitimate son, who is located, again, back in America, I presume somewhere in New York again, whose mother is played by Leslie Jones. Again, that's another weird one. I'm curious how Eddie Murphy's, I shouldn't say Eddie Murphy's, but I'm curious how the Lisa character is supposed to be taking that in terms of like, oh, when you were in America, you just went off and banged somebody else and made another kid. It's a very kind of strange thing that they're trying to do with the plot of this film, because I understand the idea. I understand what they're trying to do. They needed an excuse to get both of those characters back to America in order to have this film. The problem is that the excuse is not very good. Now, what would have probably been a better option was if you had something, maybe a different reason, but if you had something maybe where it was Prince Akeem's son, who now Prince Akeem is now King Akeem, and now he needs to basically, the son needs to kind of do the same thing, and he decides to go to America, or maybe Eddie Murphy sends him there because he's a shit, or something like that. That would have worked out much better than having Eddie Murphy come back and play the same character and just give an excuse on why he needs to go to America. I think that the premise alone right now is clunky on this film. given what I've read of it and what I've read of the premise of it. But back to actually breaking down the trailer. So after we get past this opening monologue where James Earl Jones explains this to him, basically Eddie Murphy tells Arsenio Hall we're going back to America, which Arsenio Hall does not like because he likes being pampered, or his character likes being pampered. So they return to America, and it basically shows them they go back. They go to all the same places. They go back to the barber shop where Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall voice half the fucking characters. And by the way, the old people makeup in that thing, that those people are horrifying. I don't know who did that makeup job, but those do not necessarily look like old people. They look like mutants or people where their skin is melting off. I don't think the makeup job was necessarily top notch in that scenario. And they crack a few jokes throughout the trailer. Again, in the barbershop scene, they crack more than a few of them. And yeah, they're funny. They're about on par with what I would think of maybe the first one. Maybe a little bit PG because they're sticking them in a trailer, as opposed to having them in the actual movie. I don't believe this film has a rating as of yet. Again, it's getting released on a streaming service, so I don't know if it's actually going to get a theatrical rating. But the original was rated R, so I would assume that this would probably be something that would be along similar lines. Again, I hope they didn't kitty it up because, again, that kind of takes away from the humor elements of the original film. But this trailer doesn't really show us anything. It gives us the premise, which is something we kind of already knew from press releases. And it's very vague, actually, about where the sun came from. Like how I'd be more than curious to learn how that situation wound up working itself out, and how he apparently had a kid and had no idea about it, yet his father does. There are so many questions that this trailer raises in terms of plot, and I don't know exactly. I see that's my problem right now. Is your teaser trailer is raising questions that it shouldn't raise. Your questions should be more like, "Oh, how did this happen? Oh, that was hilarious." Something like that. If you're working with a mystery, your trailer should make the audience ask questions. If you're working with something like a suspense thriller or something along those lines, your trailer should raise questions. If you're working with a comedy, your trailer should make your audience laugh and want to continue to laugh. That is not what this trailer does. This trailer makes me ask 1.5 million questions about what's going to go on with the plot of this film, because none of it makes. I mean, I granted that this is coming out in 2021. It'll have been 23 years since the original. I'm assuming the same amount of time is going to have lapsed in the film world as in the real world, which is usually what they do. So I'm assuming at least 20 years has gone by. So I guess that would kind of make sense that a lot of shit has happened. But at the same time, is that just going to mean that the first half of this movie is going to be a fucking exposition dump? Again, there's a lot of questions that this thing raises, and not a lot of them are answered. And I'm sorry I'm kind of glazing over the content in the trailer, the actual content that they show, but there's really not a lot. You have the opening scenes where they're there, and then they go to New York. You have the barbershop scene, and then it kind of ends. Majority of the trailer is actually the barbershop scene. And then after that, you have a little, kind of like very quick clip show showing, the people that are going to be starring in the movie. You had, of course, Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, and, all the characters that they play. And then you also had, Sherry Headley, and James Earl Jones. Wesley Snipes is in this as well. Tracy Morgan is in this. Jermaine Fowler plays the son. You have all those guys that just get their names dropped at the end of the trailer, and that's about it. So there's not really much substance there. I'd be more than curious to see what we see in the second trailer whenever that comes out, if we even get a second trailer, because again, this thing's only a couple of weeks off from release. Or maybe a little bit more. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if they've actually given a solid release date yet. But if we do get a second trailer, I'd be curious to see what things they actually show in that trailer. Because as far as I'm concerned, this one is basically just kind of banking on nostalgia for the older film. But like I said, it didn't really wow me. It didn't commit the cardinal sin of trailers. It didn't give away too much. In fact, it probably gave away too little. But I want to know what you think. As usual, I'm going to link the trailer in the description below, so that way you guys can see it and say what you want about it. But like I said, I want to know what you think. Are you excited that Eddie Murphy's coming back to do a sequel to Coming to America? Have you seen the trailer? Do you like the trailer? Do you like the fact that they got Arsenio Hall back to come as his character to come back too? And James Earl Jones and the rest of the cast, do you have some questions about the plot line, kind of like I do? As usual, put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?